Good morning, it's Sunday again and welcome to our next Junior Church video. If you don't know me, my name is Natalie and I'm part of the kids team at Legacy Church in Warsaw. Now we've been reading the book of Ruth and we've read chapter 1, which is all about how Ruth decides to go back to Bethlehem with Naomi when they've both lost their husbands. So poor Naomi's lost her husband and her sons, and Ruth has lost her husband, but she decides to stick with her mother-in-law, and she's very loyal to her, very kind, and she goes back to Bethlehem with her, although that's not where she's from at all. She's a Moabite woman, so she doesn't know what it's going to be like, but she goes. In chapter 2, then we found that Ruth went out and found some food for her and Naomi. They didn't have a husband to take care of them, and so Ruth has kind of been in the role of looking after Naomi. She didn't want her mother-in-law to be all on her own. Now at the start of the book, when Naomi returns to Bethlehem and some of her old friends greet her, she says to them, "Please don't call me Naomi anymore, call me Mara, because the Lord has dealt bitterly with me." Now she said this because obviously she's very sad. She's lost all of her family. She's lost her 2 sons and she's lost her husband, and she's very sad. But things are starting to work out for Naomi and for Ruth. So let's have a look at chapter 3 and find out why. Now it tells us that Naomi had sent Ruth out to look for food, and that Naomi had sent her to a farm, and this farm belonged to a man named Boaz. And Boaz had allowed Ruth to collect the grain that had fallen on the floor. And he actually said to some of his workers, "Throw some down there on purpose so that she can collect it." He was so kind. Now it turns out that Boaz was a distant relative of Naomi. So when Ruth went back to Naomi and said that she'd met Boaz and Boaz had been really kind, Ruth was absolutely thrilled, and so was Naomi. So the 2 ladies decided that Ruth should go back to Boaz and she should speak to him and ask him if he would look after them both. Now he's what's known as a redeemer in the family, and back in those days there was a member of the family who would look after women if their husbands had died. And so Ruth went back and she spoke with Boaz about this, and she asked him if he would take pity on her and Naomi and if he would look after them, if he would be their redeemer. And he agrees to do this. In chapter 3 there's a part where it says that Ruth lay down at Boaz's feet. And this was a sign of her asking for his help and saying that they were almost at his mercy and could he do something to help them. And he took the corner of his garment and he covered Ruth with it. Now this wasn't to cover her up, this wasn't to hide her, this was to show that he would protect her. So it was like a little symbol, if you like, have my coat across you and I will protect you. But what he was actually saying was, I'm not just going to protect you by putting my coat over you, I'm going to protect you by looking after you. And so he agrees to marry Ruth. Now this is a cause for great celebration, obviously, because Naomi and Ruth, who were very sad in chapter 1, have now found that actually their sorrow has turned to joy. They are so happy that Boaz has agreed to marry Ruth, and it means that they will be looked after and taken care of. So again, we've seen that kindness right from chapter 1 and then in chapter 2 and now again in chapter 3, and it's like a thread that's running right through this book. And it's amazing that God is working behind the scenes. In Ruth, in the book of Ruth, we don't hear about the ladies praying to God. We don't hear very much about God directly in that book at all, and yet we find that God is still at work. That his decisions are actually the same as their decisions. Because Ruth decides to stay with Naomi, that's something that God would want her to do, because God is love. He expects us to love and to be kind. Then we find that Boaz has been very kind to Ruth, even though he doesn't know her. She's not an Israelite woman. She's not part of the family as far as he's concerned. She's a Moabite. And yet, he takes pity on her. That's again a decision that God would want him to make, surely. Our God is love and kindness. He would want us to do the same. And now we find yet again that Boaz has acted kindly. And this, of course, is exactly how God would want him to act. So although there's not very much mention of God in this story directly, we can see that God is at work in the background. And that's amazing, because if we think about that now in our lives, isn't that reassuring? Doesn't that bring us comfort to know that there are times, like there were in chapter 1, when we might feel a little bit sad, full of sorrow, that life is not very good. But we must also remember that those times don't last forever, and that God is always at work in every situation, whether it's a good one or a bad one. And that's because he's a sovereign God. He's in control of everything. So whether it's a good situation in our life or a bad one, it doesn't mean that God has caused the bad situations, but he will work in them and he will work with us to help us through them. And that's exactly what he was doing so far through the book of Ruth. So he's been at work all this time. What a lovely story so far. Do you know, I can't wait to read chapter 4 now and find out how it all ends. How lovely. Now in a moment you're going to see our resource sheet, and on there is our memory verse for this week as well. There's some games that you can play, and also right at the end of this video I'm going to do a little craft activity to show you, and I'd like you to have a go at that. Now some of you might have noticed that this week I've got my Legacy t-shirt on. I looked at it and I thought, oh, I am missing seeing all of our lovely children at church. I'm going to wear my t-shirt. So, do you know, I would love to see you, but I would especially love to see your work if I can't see you. And I know that's not possible at the moment for us all to be together, but to send me a picture of something that you've done or a little video, or you can upload it to our Legacy Friends group on Facebook, that would be fabulous as well. Because I do miss working with you and talking with you and laughing with you and having fun with you. So please do send me something if you make it this week. Now continue watching, because the craft activity will be at the end. Have a fabulous week, and I'll see you back here next Sunday. Bye for now. Okay, so for this week's craft activity, you will need some lollipop sticks, 6 to be precise, some paper, glue stick, a pen, some coloured pencils and a pair of scissors. So first of all, let's line up our 6 lollipop sticks, because we need to get the right size. I'm going to straighten them up with the other 2 that I've got here. And then I'm going to use my pencil to mark how big they are. Take them off. Cut that out. And then on here I'm going to write friends stick together. Now do this first, because once you've put them on the sticks, once you've stuck this on, it's going to be hard to write on afterwards, so it looks like that. And then with your crayons you can do a little border if you want to. Wibbly wobbly. Maybe a heart. Flower. We'll do two. Do a purple one. And a pink one. Make it nice and pretty. Okay. Now when you've done that, you can move it and put your lollipop sticks back on your piece of paper that you've got here. And I'm going to leave the other piece of paper down so that I don't get the glue on the table, because Mum won't want that if she's got to put the tea out on it later. Now with your Pritt stick, you're going to glue the back of your little picture and your sign there. Now put quite a bit of glue on because you want it to stick to all the sticks. But you're not wallpapering, you're gluing. So don't go over the top either. Okay? And then we're going to stick it down like so. And press it down, it won't hurt it to stick down if you press on quite hard. Okay? So it now looks like this. Now I'd leave that to dry for a little bit because you need to make sure that the glue has stuck the paper to the lollipop sticks properly. Okay, so leave it to dry. When you've done it, and when it's dry, it should look like this. So this is the one I did earlier, and when you open it back up, there you are. So when it's dried, you can fold your sticks, one first that way, then underneath, then over the top, then underneath, then over the top. Okay? Let's try it with this one, see if it's ready to fold. I've tried with PVA glue, it's very, very messy. So I would use Pritt stick if I were you. PVA is going to put too much glue on the lollipop sticks. And there you have it. And you can use a piece of string like mine to fasten it up and make a little gift. Or ribbon if you've got some, or you could put a rubber band around it to hold it together for a while. And you could possibly give this to somebody as a little gift to show your friendship, just like Naomi and Ruth in our story today. Have a go and send me a picture.